Hi guys, so a couple of weeks ago I filmed my 2015 TV resolutions video and I thought I'd give you a bit of an update as to how I've been getting on by doing a season 1 review of House. I had a list of 10 TV shows that I wanted to start watching in 2015 and I've been good. I've already started watching 2 of them. I've started watching House and I've started watching Pretty Little Liars and they are both fantastic. I will say I have got slightly further ahead with one than the other. I have watched 2 episodes of Pretty Little Liars and I have watched 1.5 seasons of House in the past couple of weeks, but let me tell you, it's addictive. I've wanted to watch it for ages and just never had the opportunity, so the fact that it's on Netflix now meant that I could kind of just sit down and watch as much of it as I wanted whenever I wanted. And that's just resulted in classic Netflix binge watching. I've watched so many hours of House over the past couple of weeks of my life that it's seeping into my dreams. It's literally now at the point where I tend to be watching an episode before I go to bed, or 3 sometimes. And so I end up dreaming about it. Last night I was having a dream that Jesse Spencer was my boyfriend. It was quite a good dream. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a rough overview of how I felt about it so far. Halfway through this video it is going to go from non-spoiler to spoiler, so I will tell you when that is and I'll put a little insert so that you know when to stop watching if you've never seen it before and you don't want things to be spoiled for you. House, if you have never watched it before, is a medical style TV drama centred around the life of a doctor called Gregory House. He's played by Hugh Laurie and House is not exactly the easiest human being for people to get along with. House is quite a complicated, difficult character. He's been through quite a lot in his life that has resulted in him being quite closed off to people. He doesn't like to interact with his patients at all. He likes to diagnose them and treat them from afar, so he sends his little team of helpers who are his medical interns who have just graduated from medical school. He has 3 of them. Their names are Dr. Eric Foreman, played by Omar Epps, Dr. Alison Cameron, played by the incredible Jennifer Morrison, and Dr. Robert Chase, who's played by Jesse Spencer, my future boyfriend. They work in a teaching hospital and so they are his interns who he is working with to get them kind of up to scratch for being out there in the big bad world by themselves. And he kind of just leaves them to deal with the actual patients in terms of actual face-to-face interaction, and he likes to stay more behind the scenes. The beauty of Dr. House, however, is that he is an absolute expert when it comes to diagnosing really obscure, bizarre medical conditions. I have a theory that I could get addicted to pretty much any television show, I really do, because the moment I get attached to any character, that's it. Once I kind of latch onto a character that I really like, I'm perfectly happy to watch anything. However, what I usually like are shows where there is a huge overarching storyline and interlocking plots and everything, and that's what we see week to week. House is a medical show, so it makes sense. Each episode is centred around a different medical case. So you have a different patient who's come in with these obscure, bizarre, complicated symptoms that all mix together that could be a huge variety of different conditions, and it is up to House and the team to figure out what's actually going on with them. So each episode is mainly focused on the case that they're working on, and in the little quiet moments in between you have more personal information about the characters kind of threaded through, personal interactions between the characters starting to give more away about themselves and their storylines and their pasts and whatever. And so for me it's kind of unusual for me to be so addicted to something where the main focus of each episode isn't character development. What I think is amazing is how quickly you do start to learn about these characters without a huge amount of time per episode dedicated to screen time on just them sitting talking about themselves and their lives. Usually they're so caught up in the patient that they're dealing with that is the main focus of their conversations and their interactions, whereas you just get maybe 5 or 10 minutes here or there where it's more personal. It's about their relationships, it's about their families, it's about their their childhoods. But I think that it works incredibly well, and I think that because each episode is centred around this really obscure, bizarre medical case, House is kind of a genius. But what I love about it is that it isn't one of these cases where lots of other doctors have looked at the patients and gone, oh, we've tried all this and we can't figure out what it is, and he swoops in and goes, ta-da, this is what it is. It's more along the lines of he's just really willing to take risks, so he will make an assumption that it could be this, start treating it for that, realise that it's something else, but he's not afraid to kind of jump in there and really take control of the situation, where other people kind of tend to tiptoe around waiting to get an exact, precise diagnosis before they do anything. The first season for me flew by because I watched it in the space of a week, but it also flew by in terms of pace. I felt like it worked really nicely in terms of the flow of the show. How much we got to know about the characters in the space of 1 season was fairly limited, but enough to get you really invested in wanting to keep watching and know more about them. I think the acting in this show is just stupendous. Hugh Laurie is amazing because House is not actually, see, this is my thing. I'm struggling to know whether or not I like House. I'm still having problems with this. I can't figure out. I think I really like him, and then there's other moments where I'm like, oh my god, you're awful. What is your problem? So I think he does a very good job of playing this really complicated character. But the other three main actors, well, actually, there's more than just three. There's Jennifer Morrison and Jesse Spencer and Omar Epps, who are the team that he works with, and they are all absolutely incredible. And then there is Lisa Epinstein, now I can't remember her surname, which I feel terrible, who plays Dr. Cuddy, she's the chief of the hospital. She oversees everything, and she's House's boss. So she is amazing at kind of having this really sort of friction-filled relationship with House, where she knows what a genius he is, and so she has to have him there, but at the same time he's just so difficult that she has to kind of fight against her better judgment to keep letting him do what he's doing. There is his best friend, House's best friend, who is Dr. James Wilson. He's a cancer specialist at the hospital. And now Robert Sean Leonard, I want to say the actor's name is, I can just picture it on the screen in the credits or the titles at the beginning. But if that's wrong, then I'll put his actual name across here. But he is amazing. He's great, and I will talk more about him in a minute. So that's all I'm going to do, is spoiler free at the moment. That's an overview of the kind of main characters and what happened in season 1, vaguely, without spoiling anything. And now I'm going to start talking about some of the things that I particularly liked, but that is spoilery. So switch off now if you've not seen this before. And if you are switching off now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I will speak to you again soon. Hi, so you're still here. I assume then that you have seen House. Things that I particularly enjoyed about this season were the relationship between House and Dr. Cameron. I think Hugh Laurie and Jennifer Morrison did a really, really nice job with this storyline, because what we basically find is that across the first few kind of episodes, I think you have an instinct that something will probably happen between Cameron and Chase. This is another thing, all the characters are referred to by their surnames, so when I start to think of Chase's name as Robert, they just call each other their surnames. I don't know, is that something doctors really do? Do they just call each other their surnames? They just get called Foreman, Chase and Cameron and House. Very rarely do you hear them being called Alison or Robert or Eric. But anyway, so you kind of have an instinct initially, you're like, oh, something will happen between like Cameron and one of the guys. But you don't really necessarily think that it's going to be House, and then over the start of the first kind of half of the season, you see her becoming really attached to him and really intrigued by him. Cameron is a really interesting character for me. Now, obviously, I love Jennifer Morrison, so I was interested to find out more about her character anyway, but what I really like about her is that she's so smart, and she can jump right in there with diagnosis, and you know, she works incredibly hard and is incredibly dedicated, but at the same time she has this really vulnerable side to her that I think Jennifer Morrison just puts across really, really well. And the relationship between House and Cameron over season 1 starts to kind of shift and change, and you see that she is developing these feelings for him that you think initially you go, oh, this is so inappropriate, you shouldn't feel this way. And I kind of went through this weird emotional roller coaster with this, where initially I was really uncomfortable with it, and I was like, oh, I don't want her to have feelings for him, this is weird. And then as time went on, I started to think, okay, well, he has been through a lot of crap, you know, over however many years. So 5 years ago, when the damage was done to his leg, that means that he now walks with a cane and is in pain every single day of his life, him and his then girlfriend Stacey broke up, and it was a really traumatic situation for him. And he's kind of closed himself off from love and emotion and anything like that since then. So then I started to kind of look at it in a different way, and I was like, maybe this is actually quite cute, and I think this might be quite nice. And you saw moments where maybe he was more honest with her than he had been before, or he kind of opened up to her a little bit more, and I started getting quite invested in that, and I thought, this is really cute. And then towards the end of the season, it all kind of just went to pot again, and I find that relationship very interesting. I found that very interesting to watch unfold. I keep having to be careful that I don't start talking about season 2 things, because now I'm halfway through season 2 and forgetting kind of when certain things start to happen, but I thought that their relationship was really interesting. Another thing that I really, really love is the friendship between House and Wilson. They're best friends, and they are incredibly cute to watch on screen, because he is just so cold and rude and arrogant and awful most of the time. And Wilson, for all that he has his faults, he's cheated on his wife, he looks as if he's planning on cheating on his wife again, he is actually a very sweet, nice character, and so they kind of balance each other out really nicely. Are kind of watching it at points being like, why are you friends with him? Why do you put up with him? But because they've been friends for such a long time and they have this history and they've been through quite a lot together, you can see why it's just one of those friendships that, you know, the nice ones got to the point of being able to kind of block out a lot of the time the rudeness of the other. And they just have a very nice on-screen chemistry. I really like when you see a friendship like that that feels very natural and very real. So I really like that. I feel that in season 1 we maybe didn't get enough about the boys, so maybe not quite enough about Chase's background and maybe not quite enough about Foreman's background, particularly Foreman's background actually, because there's a couple of episodes where we learn a little bit more about Chase. We meet his dad, we find out why he and his dad have issues with each other and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like further on, you know, as the seasons go on, we'll learn more and more about those two, and that's good. So yeah, I really like both of those characters. I think there's something interesting going on with Chase where I think he has this kind of like dismissive side to him where he pretends not to really care and has this kind of like cool, indifferent attitude, but then there's moments where you see him acting very differently and acting very emotionally and you think, oh, there's more to you than meets the eye. So yeah, I think that is going to be interesting to see unfold over the next 7 seasons, because there's 8 seasons of this. I've got plenty more of this to watch, which is great. But yeah, that's my feelings on House thus far. I think it's great, as if that wasn't already obvious. If you've watched it before and you want to talk to me about it and tell me how you feel about season 1, let me know in the comments down below. If you've not watched it before and you've watched all of this, I say it many times when I talk about spoilery things, you shouldn't have, but it is on Netflix, so you can go and watch it on there if you have a Netflix account. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to do this for every season, I think, and I'm halfway through season 2 now, so I can do my season 2 review at some point soon. But I think that it is excellent, so I hope that you've enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Thanks for watching, bye! Into the Woods is a new film that's been released by Disney. It is based on the musical by Stephen Sondheim and it was directed by Rob Marshall, and I will be honest,